Mr. Chips has been through a few iterations. We have the film version, right? That in itself was its own thing. It was my introduction to Chips himself.
When I first saw the movie way back when, I thought even then it'd be a darn good subject for an opera.
Composers have their own language, you know. They've got their way that they express these deep, deep feelings that come out of them. And Mr. Getty's language is this beautiful, romantic, somewhat nostalgic music while also sitting in today.
He always brings the voice to the forefront. It's not buried in texture like Strauss or Wagner, and I love that about his writing. It's definitely from a singer's perspective, and it's quite brilliant.
It's very angular. I would call it angular writing and dramatic writing. I find that I'm leaping, but I'm leaping to places I know. I'm leaping because there's a reason.
With Mr. Getty, he really allows the artist to muse and interpret his music. He really does allow the artists to do their work.
There is a certain type of vocal challenge in Mr. Getty's writing that is fun and welcome. You know, you have to work on your technique and say, okay, what am I doing? He really has a way of grabbing you and grabbing the audience and grabbing the characters in a certain way. So it's quite brilliant.
Even though we've done all the work that we've done to prepare the production, the recording is a whole other challenge. With a microphone, you're like under the microscope. I think that adds a layer of nervousness for the singers, but I think it's also a level of nervousness that's good for the eventual product.
Having Mr. Getty in the control room while we're recording is really invaluable because he knows exactly what he wants to hear, and he might have written something and then someone perhaps ad-libs a vocal part or maybe sings a different note than what's written, and for him, oh, that's fine. That just sounds great. And so it's very easy to work with him in the control room.
Nathan is wonderful as Chips. He has such a beautiful voice. There are other excellent lyric tenors out there, but not many sing with such vocal beauty.
I start off with a little bit of weakness of the mortal coil, and then we'll transition it into the stories of him as a younger man. And so the voice becomes more robust, and he has the spring of youth. And then, of course, putting all of the bel canto tradition behind that.
And of course, he's very comfortable with the high, soft stuff. And anybody that sings tenor, baritone, or bass, soprano, mezzo-soprano, if they don't have high, soft stuff, they shouldn't sing for them.
Mr. Getty has done a fine job of painting the characters via the music. So with Ralston, with the first chord, I can feel exactly the kind of man he is and his intention. And it starts off very piano and very sinister-like. The writing was set there. The character, half of my work was done just with Mr. Getty's writing.
With Maryville, my character has the tall task of narrating the entire opera. And the way that I like to do that so that the character isn't kind of dry or flat is just by thinking about the relationship with the other characters in the opera and the humanity that's involved in that. And I think that also comes from Mr. Getty and his care for the greater good. It just shines through.
Opera preparation is such an incredible amalgam of people's talents.
Everybody who works on the scoring stage really only has one goal in mind, and that is to make the creative process seem effortless to the artists that are on the stage.
It's extremely special, and I don't forget these moments. Sometimes you're in a situation where you're recording in a hyper-stressful environment, and for a moment you can think back to beautiful moments like this.
I get to hang out in my space and listen to one of the best pieces of music that I've ever sung, listening to some of the best players that I've ever worked with, and next to me are some of the best singers I've ever worked with. I mean, it is kind of mind-blowing.
To have something that you mark your time with, to say this is what my body of work was, is very important. I have been so lucky.
Well, because it's a good opera, it's all fun. I think it's pretty darn good, and I'm proud of it.